Alright, class. So previously we already learned that group data consists of histogram, frequency, polygons, and ORGIF. Okay, so we already learned that we can draw a table with lower limit, upper limit, midpoint, lower boundary, and upper boundary. So to draw a histogram, we usually can use lower boundary, upper boundary. We can also use midpoint. Other than that, of course, we will need the frequency. As for frequency polygon, in order to draw frequency polygon, we usually will use midpoint as well as frequency. And as for our give, we will need the lower boundary, upper boundary, as well as cumulative frequency, which we will learn how to do later on in our lesson. Alright, so we are going to use the data from our homework, from your workbook, here, to draw a histogram. So we are going to draw two histograms. One of the histogram will be using lower and upper boundary. The other histogram we are going to use midpoint, and then we are going to look at how to draw frequency polygon, whereby when the question says on the top of histogram, or maybe they say on the same graph, on the same graph as histogram, something along that line. And also we are going to see how to draw frequency polygon that is individual, in the singular, its own, without combining with the histogram. So we're going to draw actually 3 different graphs, but on the 3 different graphs, histogram on its own, histogram shared with frequency polygon, and then frequency polygon on its own. So those are the graphs that we will draw. So first graph we are going to draw is histogram that uses lower and upper boundary. So I would like you to see your own exercise from your workbook. So if you have not done it, make sure you do it, because we are going to use the data here. Alright, so I would like you to use the first table, the question number 1, the table on that. We don't have frequency here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some sort of frequency here, because without frequency we can't do anything. Frequency. So let's put this as 2, 5, maybe 10, and then 8, and then 4. Of course we will need our scale, so assuming that we're gonna use this one, 2 centimeter to 5 units on x-axis, and then 2 centimeter to 1 unit on y-axis. So this is the scale that we are going to use. Alright, so for x-axis we are going to look at the class interval. So when we are going to draw our x-axis later on, you will notice that I already tell you how to draw this one. Now 170 until 174 means the class interval is actually 5. Okay, the size is actually 5, which we already learned. That's why our scale will be usually matching the size of the class interval, which is 5 units. Okay, so that is the one that you are going to look. So you have to see whether the 5 units given here, okay, will match the size of your class interval. Okay, so in this case, of course, it match because I'm the one who made it up. So we are going to use our lower and upper boundary. Like I mentioned earlier, okay, the upper boundary of the first class and the upper boundary on the second class is actually in the same number. Okay, so this same number, same number, same number. And I want you to count that we have 5 classes for this table. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the numbers of bar that we are going to draw for a histogram is 5. So by the end of our drawing, make sure that you have 5 bar of histogram, not less, not more. Okay, so the first number that we are going to put on is actually our lower boundary, followed by the rest of the number, and ends at the upper boundary, right? So let's go over to our graph paper. I'm going to make my screen smaller so that you can see the overall of the paper. Of course, we will need our axis. So what I want to do is make sure that your axis is about 2 centimeters from the edge of the graph, and or 1 centimeter depending on the size of the graph. Okay, so let's draw a straight axis first. Okay, and then I'm going to zoom in so that you can see. Okay, so before I start to draw my y-axis, which most probably will be here, okay, on this line, so I'm going to check whether I have enough space or not to draw the 5 bar of histogram. So we have to leave a space here. Okay, we're going to leave a space here, which is the 2 centimeter space from our y-axis. So roughly this will be the place for the first bar, and then the second bar. Okay, the first bar, second bar, third, 4, 5. That means I have enough space, so I'm going to draw my y-axis here. Okay, so let's do that one now. After I erase this one and zoom out. Alright, so now we have our x and our y-axis done. Okay, so we're going to use the given scale. Let's do the y-axis first. Okay, so 2 centimeter to 1 unit. We still don't know how to do it. You better do revision. Okay, so now 10. The maximum that we need is actually only 10. You want to do 11, up to you if there's space for you to do. If not, you do up to the maximum number, which is the 10. Alright, and then we have 0 here. Okay, leave 2 centimeters from the y-axis. So we're going to start with the first lower boundary, which is 149.5. Okay, and then carry out to the next number, which is actually the upper boundary and the lower boundary of the following class. Sorry. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure that by the time you do the last upper boundary, it's actually in, you have spaces for 5 bar, like this. Okay, so now we are going to draw our histogram. We're going to use the frequency given. So the first class, our frequency is 2. So, okay, so 2 will be here. Alright. Just like your bar chart, but bar chart got spaces, but histogram doesn't have. Alright, so the next is 5. So okay, so your bar chart 5. Okay, next class will be 10. Okay, so far it's easier. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, next will be 8. Okay, and then the last bar is 4. Okay, so make sure that the number of bar is the same number of classes that you have, right? So that's histogram. Okay, so this is, you can make a note in your graph. Okay, so this is a histogram that uses the lower boundary and the upper boundary, right? So this is the first graph. Okay, next we are going to draw, okay, histogram that has midpoint. Okay, the histogram that uses midpoint to draw. So for this question, we will need to use the example one that we did in class, the table, the frequency table. Okay, so refer to your textbook for example one. We're going to use that one to draw our frequency polygon. Histogram with histogram with midpoint, that uses midpoint. Alright, so let's do our x-axis. Okay, so for this one, we're going to use the same scale, so 2 centimeter to 5 units. On, they don't write x-axis, sometimes they may write horizontal axis. So this one means it's x-axis. Okay, and then 2 centimeter to 1 unit on the vertical axis. So you may find this word in your scale. So this one means the x, this one means the y. Okay, so if you're unable to remember, make sure that you you write it down. Okay, so that will be our x and our y. So let's start with the x and the y axis. Oh, remember, we use pencil to draw. Okay, we use pencil to draw. Don't use pen. Right. So, like I mentioned, we're going to use midpoint. So the midpoint will be for the x-axis. Frequency is still for the y-axis. Right? So midpoint, instead of writing the midpoint down first, what we are going to do is we are going to draw the histogram, then we label. Okay, then we label. All right, so let's label the y-axis with our proper scale. Okay, so if you look at your frequency, the highest frequency is 6. So we are going to label until 6, which is already enough, because after that it's not going to be used. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so if you have more of that, okay, if you want, you can make it shorter. That's why you use pencil, so that you can erase. Okay, and then 0 here. Sorry, not there. Okay, so like just now, we are going to have a space, okay, in between the y-axis and the first bar of histogram. So we are going to draw the bar first. Frequency, the first class is 2. So we're going to start with that one. Okay, and then continue to the next class, which is 3. Okay, continue to the next one. After 3 is 6. And followed by 5. Next is second last is 3. And our last frequency in our last class is 1. Alright, so midpoint means the middle of our class interval. Okay, the middle of our class interval. So that's why I don't want to label first. So instead of doing it first, we do it after we finish our drawing of histogram. So midpoint means in the middle, right? Okay, so in the middle of the bar, so our midpoint, the first one is 1, 4, 7. Okay, and then 1, 5, 2 should be. Okay, 1, 5, 2, 1, 5, 7. Okay, 1, 6, 2, 1, 6, 7, 1, 7, 2. Okay, so that is a midpoint. The arrow can delete now. So that's how we draw Okay, so this is a histogram that uses midpoint. So usually when we want to use midpoint, it's because there is another thing that the question wants you to do, which is to draw the frequency polygon on the same graph or on the top of the histogram, either way. Okay, on the same pieces of graph, frequency polygon. So if the question says draw the histogram and frequency polygon on the same graph, it is recommended that you use midpoint for your histogram. Yeah. Then you can continue with the frequency polygon. Okay. Alright. So frequency polygon, we need to have two classes. One classes that is before, and then another classes that is after, okay, with the frequency that is 0, which is non-existent. So what is the class for the one that is before our first class in the table? Okay, it should be 140 until 144. Okay, and then the last class, one extra class after the last class. So 175 to 179. That means the midpoint for the class before would be, okay, the midpoint will be 142. And then for the last one, the midpoint will be 177. Okay, so 142 and 147 is actually this one. Okay, so 142, 177. Okay, and then frequency polygon only uses midpoint, and then it uses frequency as well. So because 142 doesn't have frequency, so we'll start at here. Okay, at the bottom, the 0 part, and then we'll mark it on the midpoint of our histogram with the same frequency as the table, because the question says so. They want to have frequency and polygon on the same graph. Okay, so you mark the small x, okay, the frequency on the middle of our histogram. Okay, in the middle of our histogram. And then till the last one, 177, which doesn't have any frequency at all. And then very easy, use your ruler, connect all the point together. Okay, connect all the point together. That's it. Okay, just like this. Okay, just be careful that you connect properly. It will look like a drawing of a mountain, an ugly drawing of a mountain. Okay, does it look like a mountain to you? The green color line. Okay, so that will be how we draw frequency polygon on top of a histogram, or in the same graph as a histogram. That will be the keyword for our this one, frequency polygon. Now if we were to draw the frequency polygon on its own, okay, so we're going to use another graph on its own. We're going to do exactly the same thing as we did with here, except it doesn't have the histogram. Okay, so I'm going to use the exact same scale with the same frequency, okay, but without the histogram. So it's the same. We need our axis, Okay, our x-axis. Okay, and our y-axis. Okay, and then got a label. Okay, label frequency. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, I forgot. Later I need to teach you how to label. Okay, before we go. Okay, so our x here need to be labeled. So you need to look at the question. What is the information, the data about? So if you can look, you can read, it is about the height. So our x-axis, you need to label with height. Oops. Okay. Height in centimeter. Don't use the word class interval. And then this one you can use frequency. Frequency. Okay. So that's how we label our x and y axis. So it'll be the same because we are going to use the same graph, same question. Okay, so this will be the frequency. The x will be the height in centimeter. Okay. Alright, so again, frequency polygon, we use midpoint. Okay, so we are going to use, instead of being like this one, we still use 2 centimeter to 5 units. So we are going to do like normal, 2 centimeter to 5 unit. So we're going to start here at 142, which is the class without any frequency, and then continue to 147, 152, 7, 172. Did I skip? 27272, yeah. Okay, 162, 167, 172. The last one is 177. Okay, so you see it is a little bit different compared to when it is on the top of histogram. Can you see the difference? Okay, so 142, it is about 1 centimeter from the y-axis, but for our frequency polygon alone, okay, without the histogram, you have to follow what's given as your scale, which is the 2 centimeter to 5 units. Okay, so I will start to plot. Okay, the same frequency, so it's 0, 2, 3. Okay, so it's 0, 2, 3, I think that is 6. Okay, 5, 3, 1. Oops. 5, 3, 1, 0. And then we do the same as we did just now, which is connect all the points with straight line, which is your ruler. Okay, so connect all the points. Make sure you connect properly, because there are people who can connect like this. They forgot there's a point here, they go straight here. Then they remember, they go up. And then it doesn't look like a mountain at all. Okay, so at the end of your frequency polygon drawing, okay, it has to look like a mountain. You start at 0, you also end at 0. Okay, so that is how we draw. Oh, where did it go? Okay, that's how we draw a graph. 3 graphs actually, 3 different graphs. Okay, so remember this one. Okay, so this one is just frequency. Okay, just frequency polygon. Okay, just frequency polygon. Okay, so if the question says draw a frequency polygon based on your frequency table, there's no word about histogram, so this is what you're going to draw. And then if the question says draw a histogram and frequency on the graph paper, or the wording may be draw a histogram, hence draw frequency polygon on top of the histogram. So you're going to use this graph. Now if the question says draw a histogram, so you're going to draw the histogram. That's like this. Only histogram. So far okay or not? Okay, if okay, try to answer the question on this page. Okay, so this is your homework. Okay, you can use the graph given in your workbook. You can use the graph on your own graph paper also can, no problem. Alright, so I'll see you in class. Okay, bye bye.